Yes,
Hindi,
Ma'am Ami.
nabanggit na kanina, no? Kasi binanggit na nga ni President Marcos na he will consider water cannons as a weapon. Siguro weaponized civilian facility yon eh. Anong impact nun kung sakali nga na yun ang tingin natin, anong impact nun sa Mutual Defense Treaty natin? If we are considering the use, siguro depende sa use, ano, of the water cannon as a weapon.
Yes. I think, ma'am, ang context kasi nitong sagot ni Presidente, if I understood correctly, because I tried the show, and I just heard it right now, I came from a meeting, is that the President was asked whether the Philippines would start installing water cannon in response to what China does in our humanitarian missions to Baho de Manisloc, for example, or our resupply missions in Ayungin Shoal. And I think the President was reacting to some people, no? Kasi ang daming mga nagsasabi, ang daming mga kababayan natin nagsasabi, wina-water cannon tayo ng China. Ba't di natin i-water cannon din sila?
Yes.
As a response, no? And I think the President is correct na water cannons in Coast Guard ships per se are not offensive weapons. They are used for firefighting, no? Unfortunately, China in its gray zone tactics or coercion activities utilizes the water cannon as a sort of offensive weapon. Yun lang yung problema. But I think what the President is thinking is that we don't want to lose the moral high ground here. We don't want to lose the moral tendency. Our adherence to international norms and standards, no, would be affected if we stoop to the level of down to the level of China. I think that's the reason why he rejected the use of water cannons in this ongoing tensions with the People's Republic of China.
So meaning it will not be a reason for us to invoke our mutual defense treaty with the US kung sakasakali ng ganyang winawasak na ng water cannon yung mga vessels natin, Coast Guard and Navy na yan eh.
Yes, because if you look at the provisions of the Mutual Defense Treaty, in Section 5, I think we can invoke the Mutual Defense Treaty for purposes of for this purpose if and when an armed attack is made by a foreign power on a Filipino vessel. In this case, water cannons are not traditionally used as arms, no, in a kinetic conflict. So we cannot use this legally speaking for purposes of invoking the Mutual Defense Treaty.
Paano ADG kung sakaling makapatay yung water cannon? No? Nakita naman natin gano'n siya ka-powerful. No? 4 dun sa ating mga Coast Guard at Navy na sugatan. Paano kung hindi naman freak accident, pero by design ay hindi lamang nakasakit or nakasugat, kundi nakapatay ng ating mga mamamayan, yung water cannon na yan. Sabi ni Presidente Marcos na kung may isa man lang na namatay na Pilipino, ay i-invoke natin yung Mutual Defense Treaty.
Yeah, I think the President's statement is very clear. If and when a Filipino serviceman is killed sa mga ganitong klaseng operasyon at ang responsible party is China, ibang usapan yun. It could be a ground, in my opinion, no? And I'm only stating my personal opinion here, no? In the context of what the President said. Kasi ibang usapan na rin pag may namatay. No? So, if the water cannon coming from a PCG vessel leads to the death of a Filipino serviceman, that, in my opinion, could be a basis to invoke the Mutual Defense Treaty with the United States.
Puntahan natin yung
New model.
The new model. Siyempre, baka meron pang hindi nakakalam ng ibang reaction pero gusto natin makuha para sa ere natin or sa ating show yung reaction ni Sir Jonathan Malaya tukol doon sa mga inihayag ng China na yan na merong ganong something.
May new model daw.
New model.
New arrangement. Nakausap daw nila ADG, yung ating sections ng ating military at saka security establishment. Naglabas naman ng maayos na statement si National Security Advisor Anyo at saka si Secretary Gibocho Doro. No? Pero ADG, meron ba talagang kumausap sa ating mga kahit hindi napag-usapan itong new model na ito? Di ba regular naman na may ganong klaseng pagbisita, pag-dialogue with Chinese embassy officials?
Yes. But una-una kasi, we are not at war with China. And since we are not at war with China, may mga formal and informal talks that are being done with China, no? But insofar as a agreement or an intimate understanding or a common understanding, kasi pabago-bago rin kasi itong naratibo ng China dito, there is no agreement whatsoever. Because any agreement without the approval or consent of the president has no force or effect. No? Yan yung kailangan nating laging i-clarify. That is why yesterday in his statement, si Secretary Eduardo Anyo said that this talk of intimate understanding or what not, no, is absurd, preposterous, and ludicrous. Ngayon, kung may kinakausapan siguro ang China, baka naman tenyente lang to or kapitan. Diba? You have to be talking to the right people.
Yeah.
Okay?
The higher ups. Yeah.
Pero
The people who have the authority, who can really speak for the Philippine government. And in this case, they did not speak to anyone who has that authority. So yung sinasabi nila na nag-renege on a promise, there was nothing to renege on. There was nothing to renege on a certain agreement because there was no agreement in the first place.
Yes.
Yun ang pinanghahawakan natin. And again, this is all part of the Chinese propaganda disinformation operations because this came at the heel of the revelations by the biologists from the UP Institute of Biology na may ginagawa sila dito sa Sandy Cay. Kaya naghanap sila ng issue para matakpan itong environmental degradation that they're doing in Sandy Cay.
So yun lang
Mr.
tingin nyo.
Malaya, still on the South China Sea, yung bagong istorya ngayong araw, nag-aalala na ang US, nag-issue sila ng, well, there are reports na nag-aalala na nga ang Washington about China pushing through with its plan to deploy nuclear reactors, about 20 daw yan, to power their artificial islands in the South China Sea. May balita na ba kayong ganyan and would you have any idea kung paano magre-react ang Pilipinas sa istoryang yan?
Yeah, we just heard about that today as well. Apparently, this report coming from the U.S. Indo-PACOM and the U.S. State Department officials speaking anonymously to the Washington Post made this revelation. Now, this is something that we have to verify, no? As well. This report something we verify as well. Pero of course, this is not something we look forward to. Kasi remember, these militarized features in the West Philippine Sea are actually artificial islands, no?
Yes.
And some of them are within the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines. So it is not in our interest that they are doing this. They are in effect further militarizing these islands. Kaya akala ko ba ang usapan wala nang kalalawan, di ba? Supposedly may usapan gano'n.
Status
diba?
quo.
Yung status quo nga daw. And that I think was also the spirit of the declaration of conduct among parties. Again, China is in violation of many agreements in the past. Yun din nga yung hindi na-highlight sa balita Parang tayo na lang lagi may kasalanan. Paano naman yung mga agreement natin sa kanila in the past na written pa, na formal, na wala namang nasunod? In particular, the militarization and creation of artificial islands in the West Philippine Sea.
Pero hindi daw pang military purposes yan, it's for generating power daw and water para dun sa mga islands nga. At yung use daw is for civilian use. Although kahit ang International Atomic Energy, wala pang safety standards for the use of nuclear islands, nuclear reactor islands. Hanggang ngayon, hinihintay pa natin yun So,
Yes.
so kung gano'n, kung yun ang palusot nila na hindi naman yan for military purposes, paano ang reaction natin pag ganyan?
Yes. Ma'am Ami, first and foremost, I really question that, no? Kasi remember, these features are primarily military.
Military.
They are military bases. And anything that supports their military presence in those islands is technically a threat to our national security and is against our interest. Sinong gagamit ng mga yun, nung mga reactor na yun? Alangan naman hindi yun magsusupply sa military nila. When the main purpose of these artificial islands, if you look at there are readily available photos of these islands on the internet.
Yes.
Makikita mo na they have radar stations there, they have docks for their navy vessels, they have docks for their coast guard. Makikita mo doon there are even suspected missile silos in those areas. So it's practically impossible to have a nuclear reactor there, even if it's small in scale, that does not supply electricity to the military facilities. It's practically the same.
Nabanggit nyo ADG kanina na yung dahilan kung bakit nilalabas itong new model, new arrangement, framework, daw, na official to, no? Official statement ng China ay dahil to divert attention dun sa kanilang island building sa Sandy Cay 1, 2, and 3. No? Very fundamental kasi ito, ADG, di ba? Dahil kung magsasucceed sila na pataasin yung Sandy Cay 1, 2, and 3, pwede nilang i-argue na ito ay isang legitimate island, not man-made. At dyan nila susukatin yung kanilang sovereign territory at mula din sa sovereign territory, yung kanilang EEZ. Na kung yan ang mangyayari, baka pati yung Laguna Lake ay maging EEZ nila. No? Kaya anong gagawin natin, ADG? No? Monitor lang ba tayo? Ano bang, magsasampa ba tayo ng bagong kaso sa UNCLOS? So, ano ba yung mas proactive na strategy or attitude natin? Dahil napaka-fundamental kung sakaling mag-succeed sila dyan sa Sandy Cay 1, 2, and 3.
Actually, I completely agree na it's really a big issue for us kasi nga itong Pag-asa Sandy Cays 1, 2, and 3 are located within the 12 nautical miles territorial sea of Pag-asa Island. So, pag nabuo yung pinaplano nila to make it into a low tide elevation, no? They're trying to change the physical characteristics of that island. Kaya naman yung ginawa itong pinapakita nyo sa screen ngayon, no? Bakit sila nagpadala ng helicopter just to harass our maritime scientific expedition to those to Pag-asa Cays 1, 2, and 3 precisely because ang plano nila dyan is gawing isang artificial island as well where they will compute whatever alleged supposed maritime entitlements they would want and in effect reverse the 2016 arbitral ruling. Malalim din sila mag-isip at magaling. So we are now we are now notified of this. Kaya tayo nagpapadala ng mga madalas ng mga missions, scientific missions together with the UP and other partners of the National Task Force West Philippine Sea to ascertain the situation. Now that they're there, all of this information that we're getting will be brought to the Department of Justice in the Office of the Solicitor General because they're the ones studying the filing of additional cases against the People's Republic of China. Nakakadami na tayo ng ebidensya, kinakalat na natin yan. At the same time, nagbigay din ng direktiba si NSA, si National Security Advisor Eduardo Año, for more patrols in the West Philippine Sea, particularly in the Bajo Damasan Lock area. Rotational yan and more patrols. Hopefully, ma-fast track yung delivery ng mga additional Coast Guard vessels coming from Japan. There's 5 on the line para yung presence natin mabantayan natin. Napakalawak ng dagat at sa totoo lang, hindi naman ganun karami yung ating mga naval assets.
Anong mga natin, options natin? Apart from, ayan na nga, magpapadala tayo ng additional patrols. Kasi parang hindi napipigilan yung China kahit magreklamo sa kanila, nakakadaan-daan na tayong protesta. They still do whatever they want. Ano pa yung ibang options natin? Matutuloy na ba yung joint patrols with the US kung sakasakali man? Dahil kulang nga yung assets natin?
Yeah, that's on the table. That's why we are fast-tracking our modernization program. The President already approved the rehorizonning of the AFP modernization program so that it will shift in terms of procurement towards attaining the goals of the comprehensive archipelagic defense concept. No? The purpose, of course, is for us to have a self-reliant defense posture. But while we're doing that, we're working with allies, partners, and friends to strengthen our military capabilities. Again, yung ginagawa nating strengthening through Balikatan exercise and all of that, this should not be seen as a provocation against China. This is us improving our own capabilities. No? If you remember, ma'am, itong ating mga ginagawang resupply missions to Ayungin are 100% Filipino. It's
Yes.
Filipino vessels, Filipino. Because we don't want to escalate tensions. The moment we bring in the United States, sasabihin ng China, oh, the Philippines has raised the ante, di ba? And we don't want to be in that position because we want to be able to address this issue diplomatically and to the legal front. Now, we have a challenge to China. No? Our challenge to China is if you are really serious about lowering tensions, if you are really serious about finding an acceptable way forward in this issue, ipatawag nyo na yung next meeting of the bilateral consultation mechanism. Remember, there is this BCM between the Philippines and PRT in China, which is hosted papalit-palit by both countries. No, the last one we hosted it. Now
So,
is
sa
the turn
kanila.
of China.
Yeah.
Wala naman kasing schedule yan eh. It depends on the host country to call that meeting. So since it's now
When was
turn
the
of-
last time? When was the last time you called it?
The last time was last year, later part of last year, it was hosted here in Manila. It's now the turn of China to host it. So again, we asked China, oh, let's diffuse tensions, patawag na kayo ng bilateral consultation mechanism so that we can find a way to solve this problem.
Pero klaro ko lang, you just said that's on the table. That's in response to my question if we're going to agree now to joint patrols with the US in the West Philippine Sea. Tama ba yun?
Yeah, what I mean is...
Agree na tayo?
No. Hindi, ma'am. What I mean, that's on the table. It's under discussion by both parties, no? Because
Under discussion.
there are suggestions that we should undertake a joint resupply mission
Yes.
to Ayungin Shoal. Yung joint patrol kasi given na yun eh. There will be more joint patrols by the United States, the Philippines, and probably other countries, Japan and Australia, in the coming months. So that will be a feature of our defense and security arrangements.
Okay.
But the resupply mission to Ayungin Shoal, that of course is a different matter.
Okay.
ADG Malaya, merong second civilian supply mission sa Bajo de Masinloc next week, no? Wala naman kayong kinalaman doon, no? Ayun ay civilian initiative, no, ng civil society. Kung sakaling magkakaroon naman ng civilian initiative diyan sa Sandy Cay, ay hindi nyo naman i-discourage kung sakali, kahit wala kayong kinalaman doon.
Well, itong mga civilian led convoys like the one organized by Atin Ito, this is entirely led by civil society. Hindi po kasama dyan ang National Security Council or the National Task Force West Philippine Sea. We only discouraged the one in Ayungin because this was a resupply mission to a Philippine Navy commissioned vessel. Hindi naman tayo pwedeng magpasampa na lang ng kahit sino papuntang BRP Sierra Madre. But eventually, when Atin Ito agreed na hindi na sila pupunta na Ayungin, that they will just do their activities outside of Ayungin, we said, well and good, that's the West Philippine Sea. You can, since it is our exclusive economic zone, so long as you comply with marina regulations and Coast Guard regulations, walang problema. So, now, itong sa Sandy Cay naman, since it's part of, it's within the 12 nautical mile territorial sea of Pag-asa Island, anyone who wishes to go there can go there. No?
ADG, for the sake of yung conversation at saka para ma-extend ito usapin na to, at saka curiosity na rin, Tito Ronald and Ma'am Ami. Kasi sabi natin kanina, itong China, yung mga pronouncement nila, yung mga claim nila na meron mga new pact, new agreement, and so on. Sino audience sila doon? Kasi una alam natin may mga countries na hindi naman na naniniwala doon sa mga ganung pronouncement, ADG. So, paglilihis, halimbawa doon sa sinasabi niya Sandy Cay na meron silang gustong gawin doon at gusto nila iiwas yung usapin doon. Yun lang ba talaga yung pakay? Talaga ba? Kasi wala namang naniniwala na pag meron silang sinasabing ganyan agad-agad.
So tanong mo, Joby, kung meron pa silang ibang layunin, no? Maliban dun sa change the narrative.
Yes.
Yes. There's always two audiences when you do communications. No? The first is the domestic or the internal audience, and then the external audience. Itong new model arrangement, this looks like a specifically for the Philippines. This looks like it's specifically geared for the Philippines because the new model arrangement was not announced by the Beijing officials or the spokesperson of the Chinese Foreign Ministry, who usually makes these statements. But this was made by the Chinese Embassy in Manila.
Yeah.
So, talagang pang Philippine audience yan. No?
Okay.
And ang purpose niyan is, number one, malihis yung usapin sa Sandy Cay that what they have done to create this new physical feature in the Sandy Cays, Pag-asa Sandy Cays 1, 2, and 3. And the other purpose, of course, is to justify what they're doing in so far as their bullying and aggression is concerned. Kasi lagi naman silang nag-water cannon, lagi silang nag-gano'n. In order to justify that aggressive behavior, sinasabi nila na kasi ang Pilipinas hindi marunong sumunod sa usapan. Bas, kumbaga, traidor sa usapan. So how do you treat someone like that? I-water cannon mo kasi nag-usap na tayo, hindi ka sumunod. Okay? So you are feeling the brunt of our anger because nagkaroon ng usapan, hindi ka sumunod. So it's part of their skewed logic to justify their aggression and bullying. Lumalabas tuloy, tayo na ngayon ng water cannon, tayo pa may kasalanan. Di ba? So, napapansin kasi namin, if the statement comes from Beijing, it's usually for the local domestic Chinese audience. But in this case, it looks like it's for the Philippine audience.
Maybe that's also the reason why na-amplify yan yung tinatawag nila na sa social media yung mga makapili.
Yes.
No, kasi parang it's the same narrative that they're amplifying each time China brings out that kind of statement.
Yeah. Hindi ba mas insidious ADG Malaya yung isang layunin pa nila na i-project kunyari na nahati yung Philippine government na yung mga military, yung Westcom, yung NTF ay iba. Ay iba yung position sa presidente. Hindi ba may ganun din silang mas insidious na layunin?
Yes. Probably, but that's of course unfair to Westcom. That's unfair to Westcom because we feel itong mga talk of a new model has no basis whatsoever. It's again absurd, preposterous, and ludicrous. So parang ngayon ang napapako sa krus ay ang Westcom. And it's unfair to the people of our brave men and women on Westcom whose job is to resupply our troops in the PRP Sierra Madre. Kawawa naman sila.
Ano alam naman kasi
Mr.
ng
Malaya,
China?
balikan ko lang yung nuclear reactor. Anong options for the government? Are you going to seek clarification from the Chinese embassy, for example? Or are we going to ask for clarity from the IAEA kung ano yung mga rules governing nuclear reactors? Ano yung mga possible courses of action for the government?
Well, ma'am, we cannot cross the bridge unless we reach the bridge. No, we have to wait until we get to the bridge. First and foremost, what we have simply is an anonymous statement coming from an unverified source na allegedly from the U.S. State Department. And insofar as we're concerned, I don't know about other agencies of government. We have not yet received this kind of information. So what we need to do is to validate this information with our foreign counterparts in the U.S., find out if it's true, find out if indeed these reactors are just on the way or just on the planning stages or are already there, then we act accordingly based on the facts that we have ascertained.
Okay.
Well, yung nabanggit mo na kanina, Joby, no? Ano bang tingin ADG Malaya dito sa nabuo na coalition daw kontra gera, na basically parang coalition to capitulate, no, rather than to prevent war. Parang nag-scale up sila eh. Ang kaibahan siguro ay kahit katulad ng sinasabi nila, yung sinasabi ng Chinese Foreign Ministry at saka Chinese Embassy, ay yung mga mukha nila ay mukhang mga Pilipino. So, ano bang reaction nyo? Dahil mukhang nag-i-scale up sila, no? At ito ay mga kapwa kababayan natin.
At hindi na ako surprised yan sa mga yan. Paborito ko ng mga yan. Buti na lang wala ako sa Twitter, because if I was on Twitter, grabe na, no? But people send me pictures and screenshots of what they say about me. And nung una sa Facebook, natatag pa nila ako, tapos dinalingan ko yung settings ko, so they can't tag me anymore. I'm no longer surprised. Well, in a way kasi, you know, in a respectful tone, I could say that there's a difference of opinion, because we do not feel that that what we're doing in preparing our military for addressing security threats like the Balita, we really do not feel it as a provocation. Diba? Kasi we are not in a position right now to secure our territorial integrity without foreign support. Alam naman natin yan eh. Why? Because we have focused for the last 52 years on internal security problems. No? The CPP-NPA has been our problem for that long. We have focused all our energies to defeat the CPP-NPA, to defeat the Mautes, to defeat all of the Muslim separatists. Now we are in our position to do so. Pero naghahabol tayo. So the only way that we can modernize our armed forces and to ensure the readiness to address foreign security threats is to do exercises with allies, friends, and partners. And then, ang tingin nila dito is we're preparing for war. No, we are not. No, we're not preparing for war. And natatawa ako kasi yung naririnig ko sa China na scare tactics, warmongering, naririnig ko rin sa kanila. That's why people call them as makapili. That's why people call them as propagandists, apologists, trolls, no, all types of derogatory terms, kasi they are on the wrong side of history. Now, that is me saying it in a diplomatic way. Because if I was not diplomatic, I would say that they have sold their souls to the devil. Pero ayoko naman sanang sabihin yun. But you know, we are at a point in our nation's history when people have to make a stand. Diba? Binubuli tayo, there's a lot of aggression happening in the West Philippine Sea. We cannot just turn a blind eye to what's happening. Like yung sinasabi sa mga kaibigan ko na we value our relationship with China because they're our number one trading partner, and we have links with them that go back centuries. But we must put the line when the Philippine Coast Guard in our resupply missions are bullied, our water cannon, and there's use of these types of aggressions must force everyone to love our country. And these are the times that we should love our country. And unfortunately, these trolls and propagandists have chosen to turn a blind eye to what's really happening in the West Philippine Sea.
Pero itong debate na to over the policy in the West Philippine Sea, is it causing destabilization? Is it considered an internal threat kaya sa National Security Council? Are you seeing it as a source of destabilization?
Well, I wouldn't, no, because they may think that it is destabilizing the country, but I don't think so. I think we have reached a certain point of political maturity that we know what is politics and what is not politics. No, alam na natin eh, maamoy na natin na ay nako, may mga namumulitika lang dito at may mga alam mo na, no. So they may be trying to destabilize the government by doing this, but it will never destabilize the government. What I think is possible is that it weakens the resolve of government. No, kasi if you have domestic problems, you will be forced to, focus your attention on domestic issues and say that, foreign issues can take a back burner. Okay, so that could be the bigger problem. If it weakens the resolve of government and forces us not to assert our rights anymore and maritime entitlements in the West Philippine Sea. Posible pa yon. But to topple the government, I don't think so.
On a different note, ADG Malaya, I don't want to put you on the spot, no? Pero merong nangyayari ngayon na call for a hearing in aid of legislation para i-clarify ano ba talaga ang pinag-usapan dito sa secret gentleman's agreement na na-horrify yung ating presidente, no? Umaandar yan sa Kongreso at mukhang handa yung Kongreso na ipatawag yung presidente at kung hindi siya dadalo, isampina siya. Pero parang sa Senado ay hindi umaandar. At mismo yung Senate President, Subiri, sabi niya ay parang hindi siya interesado na magkaroon ng hearing. Isang senador kasi yung nag-propose na magkaroon din ng hearing. So, ano bang posisyon ng NTF dyan o NSC kung sakaling meron silang posisyon? Dahil national security issue kasi itong gentleman's agreement na ito. Hanggang ngayon, iba-iba yung mga lumalabas na tungkol dito. So, mahalaga na magkaroon talaga ng official hearing para malaman ano ba talaga pinag-usapan, no?
Okay. Well, mahirap kasi pong mag-comment on our end because this is not technically a security matter. It is a hearing to be conducted by a co-equal branch of government. So, mas maganda siguro kung ang talungin na lang natin yung mga miyembro ng Kongreso.
Okay.
Anything else,
Yeah.
Ma'am Ami?
Let me also
Yes.
take this opportunity, no,
Yeah.
to clarify, no, that it's our turn pala to host the bilateral consultation mechanism, no. The last one was in Shanghai last year, and it's now our turn.
It's our turn.
To host the bilateral consultation mechanism. We already sent an invitation to China. So our call to China, just to clarify, magkampi lang ako, is we urge China to favorably consider the standing Philippine invitation. So we asked
tanggapin.
China na, okay, to diffuse the situation, we are inviting you to the bilateral consultation mechanism. Sagutin nyo na para magkausap na yung dalawang panig.
Ano yung napag-usapan niyo the last time na nag-bilateral consultation? Baka naman yun ang tinuturo ng China na meron kayong kung ano-ano new model o kung ano-ano yung mga sinasabi nila. Baka doon nangyari yun.
Ma'am, if you will listen to the Chinese embassy's statement, walang kinalaman si DFA dito. And I also asked DFA about what happened in Shanghai. I can categorically say that nothing was discussed in that meeting about a new model or a special temporary arrangement. No, there was no agreement whatsoever in that meeting. Besides that, no, the DFA has more information, pero wala on the end of the DFA, wala on the end of the NSC, nor with the DND. Di natin alam kung sino kausap ng China dito sa kanilang imaginary model or special arrangement.
So we will be waiting for China to accept that invitation para doon sa pagpupo ng mga parties involved dito. Pero with that, papasalamat muna tayo. Thanks for joining the Storycon today. Jonathan Malaya, ang Assistant Director General po ng National Security Council. Thank you, sir.